Oh, hey everyone. Welcome to Serenity Farms. This is the recovery room on the rocks. Today I'm pretty excited. I think what my goal to get across is people, because I'm a musician, I want to introduce people to musicians who have been going through the recovery process, who've had their ups and downs, but continually seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So today we have with us someone who I've known for a few years now, through a lot of mutual friends, a terrific guitar player, an incredible singer as well, done a lot of writing for people in Nashville, performs around Pittsburgh, pretty much covers a good chunk of the eastern part of the United States, and when called upon, the other parts. This is Mr. Craig Veltri, and I'm really happy. We've got a copy of his vinyl, and we're going to talk about some of his music, but we're going to dig deep. So, Craig, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Craig Veltri, sobriety date June 29th, 2022. I am happy for it. It took what it took to get there. Basic stats about me. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Mount Lebanon area. I've been playing music professionally now since 2014. I've been putting stuff out here and there since about 2004, but I really got serious about it midway through the Obama administration. And so I've been just kind of been bouncing around. Before, one of the standard questions usually is, what would I be doing if I wasn't a musician? Dead or in jail. This is the thing that saved me before getting recovery and getting serious about that saved me.
Well, let's wind this backwards a little bit. Let's go maybe when you were younger, growing up in Mount Lebanon. What were some of the things the positives and then some of those negatives that started to draw you, towards the road of addiction?
I lived in from the outside, it looked pretty idyllic. I mean, it's Mount Lebanon, which if people don't know about the Mount Lebanon neighborhood of Pittsburgh, it's about 30 minutes south of downtown Pittsburgh, depending on traffic. And I've told people where I'm from, and they have said, "Oh, so you're rich." I'm like, "No, my family was pretty well off, but you're rich." It's like, I'm here playing music. What do you think? So where did addiction come from? I believe that everything is a learned behavior, and it certainly was a coping mechanism for a lot of things. And let me just go right from the jump and say that I'm not blaming anybody for my addiction. I'm not blaming anybody for the things I did as I sought to keep that part of my life alive. But I also have come to understand that the nature and nurture question in psychology, it's a nice setup to give that practice a purpose. But when it comes to addiction, it's a learned behavior. I don't buy that you're born with it. You learn. This is something that you learn. It's a habit.
It's a habit, but do you think that it's environmentally learned? It's part of possibly your makeup genetically could maybe have a little bit to do with that.
I don't know, because I look at my family, and there are some people that have gone off the deep end. I'm not going to name names in my family, but for the most part, it's just a family from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
A Catholic family from Pittsburgh. They drink. They don't. Some of them don't drink the way I like to drink, but I've seen my families. Some pretty well-to-do people, some very buttoned-up people in my family. They can tie it on, and being from Pittsburgh, I'm preaching to the choir on this one here, southwestern Pennsylvania. Drinking town with a football problem. I've heard it said that having a beer and a shot is a birthright, and
oh yeah,
so it's very well buried, and that's talking about America, really.
Yeah, like there's almost an expectation, a rite of passage growing up.
Oh yeah,
and but that can affect everyone differently.
For sure. I can't whip cream with an onboard motor, to use an old saying, but at one point in my life, I could outdrink a couple of people, or at least I tried to on several occasions. So I was short kid, big mouth. Three different schools before the time I was 12 up to that point. Then the family moved to Charlotte when I was 13. So I once that Pittsburgh had nothing to do with the drinking, but we talk a lot about in recovery circles about geographic cures. So we moved. The problems within the family, the problems within me never really changed.
And that's what, there's an old song line. Paul Revere and the Raiders said, no matter what you do, you could never run away from you.
Yes.
And so no matter where you go, I need a change of this, but you're still taking your core with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're at this age. Were you drinking at this time?
My drinking up to the age of 13 was limited to communion wine.
But was that registering with you?
Not really. I mean, they watered it down pretty well at the parish, as I recall. It really didn't kick off. I would give one pinpoint for where the drinking really kicked off when my sister graduated high school. I have a sister 2 years older than me, so I'm 16 years old. Family throws a big blowout at the house, and there is a lot of beer, and there's a full liquor cabinet left over, and I'd begun sampling at that point. I had a teacher, the late Lonnie Billard, and I heard him say this secondhand through one of his favorite students. This student told me it's like 1 year he was beaten like a dog most of his high school career, and then next year he was biting. The reason I was biting, probably hungover, probably I didn't want to take it anymore, but yeah. But there was a part of the end of my high school career, there was concern that I wasn't going to even graduate. So grades weren't bad, but there were just like a couple missing assignments on there, and it's because I was
So the snowball was growing. Yeah, the snowball was growing, and and please correct me. It seems like this was becoming more of a part of your life as a coping mechanism. So maybe there was some anxiety, maybe there was some, but this was like, I can do all these things, but I kind of need that extra kick.
At that point, it was mostly social. Yeah. There were some nights where I was, sampling mixed drinks and stuff like that, making my own cocktails, if you will. And by the time I got to college, if it wasn't full blown, it was getting there. And by the time I had barely gotten past the age of 21, I had just passed, I think, my 21st birthday when I got my first got clipped for my first DWI. So,
oh wow! And now, were there a progression of those over time as well?
There were two.
Okay,
there were two, and another incident that I won't get into at the moment. But
I think with your first DWI, it seems from just from the history we've talked about, it really wasn't a wake up call at all.
No, at that point in my life, I had a lot of people saying, "Well, I didn't think you were that bad."
That happens a lot, though, doesn't it? Because it's like the eyes of the stranger. We wear a bunch of different masks at different times, and I'm guessing that you had a couple of masks.
Oh yeah, the things that you say when your thinking is completely warped, that completely and utterly makes sense. I thought that this was normal. I thought this is just how people my age drink. I thought this is just what you do.
But I think this is an important part because I think in life, most people in life don't realize they're not aware of self-awareness, right?
No.
So I think a lot of us in life walk through life thinking that most everyone else has the same paradigm and they think the same way that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of go through that. And I'm guessing you have a little bit of that at this time. Is that accurate?
Well, there's also the fact that when you begin drinking, it's been studied and it's been proven that your brain and the way your brain develops and your behaviors develop stop and kind of remain in a stasis for the amount of time you continue drinking heavily. And for me, that would have been 16 or 17. So I, diagnosed ADHD when I was 4 years old, and I do think the diagnosis is correct.
And this is very common. I'm a firm believer that anxiety and depression are the root of so many ailments, emotional ailments, and this is the common thread. So going back to that, the no self-awareness, the drinking as a coping mechanism, and you don't even realize it. It's just happening.
It was the only thing that was working as well.
Gotcha.
Because the world was making a whole lot less sense. I would say that I only son in a generation to a guy with a last name ending in an I. I was spoiled. I would say that I didn't have much drive, much ambition, and the through line in my life, as my dear friend Amy Jane Williams said on this program, the person, the narcissist with the inferiority complex, not her exact phrasing, I'm sure, but you hear it a lot in recovery circles. That's kind of where it came from. Again, not blaming anybody, but again, it has to come from somewhere.
But and I think, and I use this analogy a lot, is that so you're kind of getting into a hole,
yeah,
and you get a shovel. Instead of digging steps out, you start digging the hole deeper, right?
Yeah. At one point, I mean, by the end, I thought to myself, okay, well, this isn't a disease. This is just a sign of my character. And if I knew better, I'd do better. I can't do better. So that just means I'm evil. So
you had an element, we were talking about Catholic, you had an element of guilt upon you. Self-inflicted guilt.
Oh yeah. At that point, I had renounced my faith many years ago, but that doesn't go away. The guilt and the shame that is often taught in these fields. I would say that that's true, but I at that point it really didn't matter where it came from. That's just where I was.
As this guilt was drilling its way into your soul, if you will, did you find that this was a gateway or a trigger to you to drink more?
I wouldn't say that was the reason. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was a fun drunk sometimes. I was a romantic as a drunk sometimes. It really was just the way everything happened. But at the end, oh yeah, it was the suicide attempt.
Oh wow, okay. And we'll as we move on, we'll get a little closer.
Excuse me, for the filters or whatever before I wanted to unalive myself. Gotcha.
But here, I think, I try to touch on the artistic side of things. So, at this point in your life, your early 20s, but music is also a part of your life, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the balance of those two, are they pulling apart? But just kind of go into how, you started as a musician and how the addiction part of it was playing into it.
It's kind of a blues man's tale almost. The guitar fell to me when I was 12. My hands were too big for the classical neck guitar. I took lessons for about a year, and this was around the time we moved to Charlotte. So the guitar found its way into the closet, not onto my lap most of that first year I was in Charlotte. And then I found that guitar, started, relearning the chords that I had learned, and then ultimateguitar.com was launching around this time. It had complete chord sheets. It had tablature. I didn't have to read notes anymore. It was much easier to read chord shapes at that point. And I taught myself a bunch of songs. I started writing. I always loved writing as an outlet. Even when I was very little, I was always writing little stories and stuff. And the song element of things just kind of came naturally to me. And I will say this to any aspiring writer: don't be afraid of sucking at first, because that's kind of the idea.
But that's how you learn,
Exactly.
I think
Because my song sucked is what I was arriving at.
But even when you're just learning to play, and this doesn't even have to be a musical instrument. It could be whatever you're doing in life, right?
Of course.
You're not going to come out of the gates kicking ass. I'm a bass player. It took a long time for me to get my level of confidence to be able to execute and the knowledge that I learned. So when you come out, you fall on your face a lot, and you think that you're coming out, oh, I got this, but you don't.
That's why I stopped in the first place. And I found a style that I was able to kind of play around and play in with, and it did keep getting better. I kept getting better. I always felt like it was the one thing in my life that I could put in and it would give back. I didn't feel any reward in school. I didn't feel reward in athletics.
Craig, that's very, very heavy because, as people go down the path with addiction, you have that one, even if you have that one point, that's something, it could be passionate. Something you're passionate about. It could be, something that you just like that's over here, but you have that one thing that ultimately can help you move forward. But right now you're kind of walking that line between both, correct? So
finding what the line was at that point, because I'm a confused kid at this point. I everything I'm doing is wrong at this point.
In your mind or to everyone else?
I think it was a lot of things going on at once. I think that
you were suffocating.
I was suffocating. I was being pulled into a lot of different expectations from the school I was going to, the family that I was coming from. I knew this was the way that I was gonna do it.
Now here to perform The Whiskey Has Its Way is Craig Veltri.
Well, the whiskey has its way of lightening the load and hammers even harder every day that I don't. But the whiskey has its way. Well, the whiskey hides the pain, but it doesn't heal. And all the bad I've hidden's now more easily revealed. But the whiskey hides the pain, and the weight is frightening some days, and it hurts. Even though it chokes and beats me, I know it's there to keep me in a place that I deserve. So the whiskey has its way. Well, the whiskey has its way to murder everything and do the things that make me kill love as it brings. But the whiskey has its way. Well, the whiskey has its way to feel mortality And if it claims me, so what? You won't miss me anyway. So the whiskey has its way, and the way is frightening some days, and it hurts. Even though it chokes and beats me, I know it's there to keep me in a place that I deserve. So the whiskey has its way. Well, the whiskey has a voice, won't give me a choice, and won't remain silent till I fill the void. It has its final say.